There we go.
There we go.
All right. Okay. So Lorene, welcome to this interview with the Davis County Conservatives. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
So we're doing our best to interview all candidates that are running on for public office with the Republican Party, and I guess just to get start things off, would like you to just introduce yourself, however you'd like. As professionally or personally as you care for, and what office you're running for, and maybe a little bit about why.
Okay, sounds good. My name's Lorene Kamalu, and I am serving right now as one of the 3 Davis County Commissioners. I serve in seat B, and each of the 3 county commissioner seats is individually elected. That's why those seats have those letters. A lot of people have asked that. So I've been serving for 7 years. I love it. I believe I will always be in public service for the rest of my working years. It's unexpected for me. I didn't grow up in a political family. My background is business, but I was encouraged to look into public service in the city where I live, Kaysville, starting back at the end of 2013. And so I considered it, and I began serving as an appointed city planning commissioner, working with planning and zoning. I'm super glad that I started my public service in that area because Utah is having a lot of growth, especially along the Wasatch Front. And good planning and zoning is important to understand, as well as private property rights. So that was my entry into public service. I was born in Utah. All 4 grandparents have roots back to pioneers. We moved to Davis County in 1996, my husband and I, with 3 young children, when my husband was active duty Air Force and he had a 4-year assignment to Hill Air Force Base. And then since we've lived here since 96 in Kaysville, we had 2 more children and just stayed because it's been such a great place to live. So I did go back. My background is business. I had a business home based of my own those years of us raising our children. And then when I got into public service, I realized that public sector is very different than private sector. And I decided to go back for a master's in public administration. So I did that. I got that degree, finished that in 2018, and was soon after elected and sworn in to serve as a county commissioner. So why I'm running? Well, I was pretty thoughtful about whether to run again in this spot or to continue public service in a different elected role. But we have had some turnover of some leadership roles in the county. We have a newer commissioner, Commissioner Crofts, who was sworn in beginning of 2025. The controller came in a special election this past summer, Scott Park. We have a new HR director. We have a new animal care director. And there's, perhaps another role or 2 where we've had turnover in the last year or so. And so it seemed like it wouldn't be so great for Davis County to have 2 open seats this year. Better to continue serving and offer some experience and some institutional knowledge. So in one way, why I'm running is because I was very thoughtful about whether to run for 1 more term. And I decided that it would be in the best interest of Davis County to do that. Plus, I love it. So let's see, that's background. That's kind of why I'm running. Did I miss any part of that
No,
first question,
no,
Brian? Does that do
no.
it?
I think that covers it pretty well.
Thank you.
All right. So, just start off the more formal questions. This is a question we've tried to ask at some point in the interview, just about every candidate. And the question is, what is the proper role of government?
Yeah, one of my very favorite questions. So it's limited. Health, safety, and welfare is pretty much it. Mixed in, I've read some good things about the private property rights. It's also, protection of that is probably core. So yeah, limited is for sure important. And I have, as a county elected person, definitely understood how important the role of safe and secure elections are, because that's a county responsibility across the United States. And then also public safety is another part of what I already mentioned that has been very important to me, especially in local government. Those roles are incredibly important and different, right? A lot of people don't understand that there's different services that cities provide. And then going up with counties are still local government, but thankfully Davis County doesn't need to provide those city services. And so we can just make sure we're focused on what is in the state law for counties to provide. State's a whole different level, and then federal. And it's helpful for people to differentiate what level of government does what.
Okay, thank you. So if any of the other board members that are on would like to ask a question, I guess just raise your hand and then I can turn the time over to you. All right, Rich, you're raising your hand. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Thank you for being here today, Lorene. Appreciate that very much. These are pretty easy questions here. It's a two-part question, though. I want to know, as a Davis County Commissioner, what are the things that you are most proud of that you feel has served the people of Davis County? And then the follow-up question is, what are the things that you're not so proud of that you took on and maybe looking backwards said, well, we could have done that differently and it would have been better for the people of Davis County?
Oh, thank you. Davis County is the seventh lowest cost of county government per capita in the state. And there is a very long history of being financially conservative. I can give an example. In the responsibility of the elected controller, he oversees a budget committee. All three commissioners are on that budget committee. And the controller, and then a couple other leaders in the county. And so any requests throughout a year of budget that are different from what was passed in the budget has to go before the budget committee. And then the budget committee makes a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So we inherited pretty strict ways, I would say, that anything outside of what's been already budgeted, it's very hard to get anything more added. So you can't be the seventh lowest cost of county government without years and years and years of being very careful to just do what's required in the law and not growing extra government and growing extra programs. So I would say I am most proud of the history in my time, but before my time, of the county being super financially conservative. So that's, there's a whole bunch of things that we've done, but I would say that's a big one that would interest a lot of people. As far as something that hasn't gone very well, two things maybe related to projects that have been taking too long. Government is very different from private sector, as I said before. And costs of construction have been going up about 5% per year for years now. During the pandemic and after the pandemic, there were definitely supply problems and super escalating costs, 32% inflation since 2016. And two of the projects specifically that have just been taking too long to get started after feasibility studies. One is the complete renovation of the library in the south part of the county. I mean, it's going to be fantastic, but it's taken so long. I mean, a 3-member commission is a small government, which is, I love. But when, one commissioner gives an assignment for even more research to be done, it can draw it out and take longer. And that's what happened in that project. And that's also what happened in the animal care facility project, both with feasibility studies, both showing the best path forward, but with delays that probably a whole year of delay, just doing additional research that a commissioner wanted, and what one particular commissioner wanted, and the costs just keep going up 5% per year. So that's been a little bit frustrating.
Okay, thank you. If there's time, I might have one other question, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I'll just let everybody else go, and if there's time, then I'll sneak it in.
Okay. So then, Peter, you had your hand raised, so why don't you go ahead and go next, and then we'll see if you've got questions after that.
Thank you for coming to talk with us, Lorene. I'm very interested in our county taxes. It seems that our taxes have gone up now 15% on the county's part. And I'm concerned with taxes going up always, of course, but it seems that they've gone up faster than the population has gone up. And even if you add in inflation, our taxes are higher than population and inflation. So I've heard it said that we are currently in a financial bind, meaning we need to spend more money, and we've obligated to spend more money than we have. Thus the tax increase. Thus we would have raised taxes even higher than 15%, but for the fact there was some opposition to it. So my question would be, what would be your approach to reduce the taxes? What would you cut in county government that could reduce the tax burden? Or would you really prefer to raise just taxes higher and just pay all the bills?
Yeah, that's a very important question. There is a lot of law around property tax. The amount of revenue collected from property tax to run county services and to replenish that general fund for all the services Davis County is required to provide by state law, that amount of money does not increase with inflation. All local governments, it's the same amount of money that you are running, except for a little bit of new growth, which does not pay for itself. New growth actually adds, more cost to providing services for growing population. Crime tends to increase with growing population, and yet there is no additional money, because when property values get higher, all of our properties are valued way more than they were, right, in like 2019 when I came in. As those property values are assessed higher, the rate multiplied with that goes down, so that the amount of money is the same. And I see you nodding, you understand that.
I was on the Davis School Board, so I understand all of that. I hope the others that are listening do also.
Yes. People have if they haven't known better, they assume they're just paying more because their homes are worth more, but that's just not the way it works. And as you already said very accurately, when we pay our property taxes, it gets distributed. The largest part goes to the local school district by far. And then a small part goes to an individual city. A small part goes to individual's county to run the city level services, to run the county level services. And then a little goes to mosquito abatement and, a couple other things. So it's very interesting for people to know that there is nothing in Utah law that helps any city or any county to keep the amount of money the same as inflation is increasing every year. So normally the target inflation is a 2% every year. If a healthy economy has about a 2% inflation, that's the target for the federal government. But unfortunately, the last time that Davis County increased the amount of revenue to run county services required by state law was all the way back in 2016. That was the last truth in taxation for the general fund. And so since that time, the controller's office, the prior controller, he had added up, the new controller, when he came in, added it up. There has been 32% inflation accumulated since that time. So all of us are paying higher costs on everything because of that inflation. And that is the same for government. Everything that the government runs on has increased in costs since the last time that revenue was increased. So good tax policy, number one, you don't grow government. You don't add on stuff that you think is great, government should do this and that. Number one, you don't grow government. I feel very strongly about that. And we're struggling with that because there are so many bills and so many laws every year at the state legislature where, we're supposed to be living in a small government state. But I'm telling you, the numbers of bills and the numbers of laws are overwhelming at this time, and is really crushing local government with unfunded mandates. So I will say the county hasn't grown government, but the state has given us many, many unfunded mandates. And just three that I've thought of that might be easy for people to remember. This doesn't even include the most recent session that has ended, but prior to sessions, 2 or 3 sessions, we have had to hire, we absorb year after year with new laws that are passed until we just can't absorb anymore. And then literally there can be laws where there's not even someone in the county with that particular expertise. And I'll give you just 3 where we've had to hire people for these 3 new laws. One is Code Blue and the requirements of Code Blue in the state law. Another one is school safety and the requirements to sheriff's offices around the state for school safety. And the third one that was very easy to pick off and explain to people was data privacy. None of these actually is a bad idea, but it is growing government and more responsibilities in the law that we have had to comply with from state government. And so, one of my main points actually is that Utah Association of Counties and all the counties, and I would say cities too, we're getting hammered with unfunded mandates, and we push back. A lot of people say, well, gosh, do you work against it? And the answer is yes. We spend a lot of time in the legislative sessions, playing defense, educating state legislators, and pushing back on things. And sometimes, there's just so many bills. We are successful in many of them, but we are not successful in all of the things that then become more of what we have to do. One easy story that is, I've been sharing quite a bit. When the budget season is most intense is around the beginning of October every year, because our fiscal year is the calendar year. And again, it is the elected controller. That position is incredibly important. They are the chief financial officer for the county, and in state law, they also have the budget responsibility. Commissioners have the final vote, and we can influence and we can, make sure we know as much as we can. But the controller is the finance expert. And we've had good ones in the time that I've been in, very good ones. So the former controller saw that there was enough inflation, and even remind me to mention the money that the federal government printed, which caused inflation, and $67 million that came to us, because that's also been a confusing point for people. But when we started the budget meetings that were every day, all day for weeks, and they are open in public, for a solid week, and when other ones that go on after that solid week. He started by putting up on the screen all the requests by the various departments for the next year, and they run, they do good work, and they run as lean as they can. But if it wasn't in state law by any particular department's request, he put a no. He already said no to everything that wasn't required by state law for the counties to provide. That was the starting point, and then we had cuts from there. So one of your questions was, what do we cut? Well, we make sure that we're not adding new people, that we, when we don't need to, and a lot of departments are very good at that. In 7 years' time, our facilities department, I think, asked for one additional person. And there's been more for them to do by far, but they just keep figuring it out to be efficient. And I think government should do that as much as possible. Let me just go back and touch on one other point. And then Peter asked me if there's anything I didn't clarify from your very important question. People have asked about, okay, so if good tax policy is to do a small adjustment every 3 to 5 years as needed so that you can still provide the services when you have inflation accumulating. We had wage wars and other things too, by the way. But, why wasn't that done? Why did you wait so long? And the answer is because we still had fund balance to use. So this county got $67 million from the federal relief funds. And there were lots of rules around that money. Ideally, and what we spent most of it on was for one-time projects because it was one-time money. However, during that time, there were needs and requests from public safety and criminal justice, specifically to the sheriff's office and the attorney's office, also for the legal defender's office. And so during that time, during the growth and the challenges that they need to keep up with, there were some requests that they needed some things, and so we didn't say no. It's public safety and criminal justice. That makes up 2/3 of the general fund budget, public safety and criminal justice. So when the new controller came in, he ran all those numbers again, and he said 2/3 of the general fund is public safety, criminal justice. The other third of the general fund are other offices required by law. And, we can't not fund those. And as long as we had some fund balance still that was allowed by the rules from the federal government, it wouldn't have been a good idea for us to increase taxes. So we waited as long as we could, which I think he explained in those hearings, that this is the final year to use the last of that money, and the revenue needed to match revenues and expenses from the normal ongoing was up to a 30% cap.
Would it be fair then, in summary, to say that you would be the candidate who believes in fiscal responsibility of paying the things the state requires and charging the taxes necessary to bring things to balance?
Just keeping up with inflation the best we can, but finding as many efficiencies along the way that we can. Balanced budget is required. We have to do that. Yes. Fiscal responsibility, absolutely. Davis County is known for it. We wouldn't be ranked. That ranking came from the Utah Taxpayers Association. It's an outside entity. They rank the cities and they rank the counties. And we're lucky to have a diverse economy. There is some sales tax that comes in and helps. But, fiscal responsibility, I'd love to be known as the candidate for that. But I think you have to be careful because, if the question is, what would you cut so you don't have to raise taxes? I mean, that doesn't even allow inflation to be part of the conversation. And inflation does take a toll on household budgets and also for government. So,
Okay. So Lorene, I want to, I guess, follow up Peter's question with something related to it. So are there other, does the county have any assets or programs that maybe don't need to be provided? I mean, is it required to have the Western Sports Park, for example? Is that something we have to have? Is it even bringing in enough money to pay for itself?
yeah, thank you for that. Good question. There are 2 golf courses that the county has had for a very long time. They run in the black and they do add money.
Okay.
Those are definitely not required in the law, but they exist for reasons from decades ago. And people like the open space, people like the opportunity to have that in the county, and they do contribute financially. Western Sports Park is not part of the general fund. Yeah, there's a lot of sales tax dollars that are controlled in state law regarding tourism. So restaurant tax and hotel stays are two big examples of the taxes that are collected that are in a special bucket, and there's laws that control what those can be used for. For example, something got tweaked the session before last to give just a little bit of flexibility for mitigating impacts of tourism, but for the most part, those revenues cannot go into the general fund. They are kept in a separate fund, tourism taxes, and they can only be used in certain ways. And that is what the Western Sports Park, that is what funds the Western Sports Park, the building and its operations. So we did have a question at least once, what are you doing to expand the tax base so the burden isn't all on residential property owners? And that is one example. Over years of time, that property was just sitting there and people wanted to buy it, but the county didn't feel like it was a good idea to just sell it for one-time revenue, but to really use it as an asset in the county. And that's what birthed the Western Sports Park.
Do you remember how much it cost to build the Western Sports Park?
Yeah, I feel like it was around 60 million.
Okay. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Yeah, there was a bond to do that, and it is exceeding all the forecasting of what it's doing. It is very busy. It is noticeable when there's things going on and when there's not, and bringing more sales and sales tax into the surrounding cities. Big things should impact all of our cities with increased revenues. So they modeled all of that, like what are the potential revenues, and it's exceeding all of the modeling, even though it's only been opened for, 6 months or something now.
Okay. What about the animal shelter that just finished construction?
Actually,
can you tell us what part of state law requires that we provide veterinary services in a no-kill animal shelter?
Yeah. It's animal services are typically a city responsibility. That's the way it is in the state of Utah, and it is called animal services. I'm sorry, I can't give you title and chapter, but I bet it's not hard to just look that up. But animal services is the title, typically a city responsibility. Throughout the state of Utah, there are a number of cities that have their own, but the practice for 15 cities in Davis County is that there's only been one facility, and so cities were collecting from their residents to then pay the county, toward all the services that happened within their city, and there was some sort of a formula. And so just a few years ago, it was all the city managers had a lot of meetings with the controller and with at least one county commissioner. I wasn't part of that group till it had really gotten a lot further down the decision road. But the city managers very much wanted the county to just fully take it over so that they could drop the amount of money that they were charging to have the service for their citizens and just let the county have it as a line item so that it would be tax neutral. That happened about 3 or 4 sessions ago. That change was made. So even though the law still calls it a city responsibility, for Davis County, they tweaked it so that for us, city or animal services could be provided by the county. And then at the same time, probably 9 years ago. I know that because Randy Elliott was the former commissioner who says he started to work on it 9 years ago before Stevenson and I even came in. He just said that, the shelter was very much undersized. It was built in the 80s. It was built when, the public health and public safety practices were very different here and across the nation, and they would keep strays for about 3 days. And then if they weren't claimed, then they just euthanized the animals. And I couldn't tell you exactly, how that changed. But definitely throughout all local governments in Utah and throughout the entire United States, it is not just hold for 3 days and kill as a euthanizing facility. They now are very much adopting facilities. So people surrender. They do catch strays still and rehome them, but they also will adopt those who will surrender their animals. Public health, public safety is behind all of this. And so there was a feasibility study after the city managers in the county figured out how to, officially make it different for Davis County, more efficient, so that it would just be a county responsibility. And they were dropping their fees for their residents in cities. And next they worked on, okay, what about the building? So that also had a feasibility study. And that came back saying that the population in the middle 80s that building served has like more than doubled. And that's the human population, and the animal and stray type population tends to track with the human population. So the feasibility study was add on or try to, save this building, or is something new needed? And it was determined that no, it's long used up its life and a new building would be needed. So actually that had another delay of at least a year because a commissioner the idea was to build it right next to the current one. And the new commissioner then decided, or not the new commissioner, but my colleague, Commissioner Stevenson, asked them to research the entire county and see if there was a different site. So that was done, and there was not a different site found. Our county's almost filled in. It saved quite a bit that it could be built right next to the existing facility because we didn't have to buy more land. And the feasibility study recommended, kind of like a concept, and it was going to be a $20 million build with just some estimates. But the controller and the animal care director and the commissioners agreed that, man, that's a lot of money. It's an institutional building. It's not a regular building like building the county administration building. It's got to do special stuff with the sewage and sound, and it's a special sort of an institutional building. It has not yet broken ground because they've worked so hard to bring the price down. But while they've been bringing the price down to $16.5 million instead of $20 million, and leaving some space not filled in quite yet that can wait, costs have been going up, and it's delayed the.
So this sounds like it would be an example of a county service that is not, other than animal services of some kind, the new expenses we have for animal care are not required by the state. Those are county decisions. No, the county decided to make it bigger. The county decided to make it better. The county decided to add veterinary services. Those are not required by the state.
Well, it already has veterinary services. They now have to pay more money to contracted vets because by law, all the animals that come, all the strays have to be fixed. So there's already veterinary services. That's not going to be any different with the new building. And no, it's required in the law that you have to have animal services. Now, anyone who, with all the public meetings, if there's somehow they know better than our facilities director and our animal care director and a, professional feasibility study on how to take a county that's grown double since this other building was built and falling apart I mean, anyone can go tour it. It reminds me of when I live in Kaysville, and when I became a city planning commissioner appointed in January of 2014, in that very year, it was proposed by city officials that we needed a new police station. And everyone had a chance to go and tour the old police station. And I was just very interested to learn more and, put more time into learning and as a resident. And so I attended the meetings and I toured that building and I could not believe what I saw. There were 2 portables outside of the building where deputies or, police officers were working outside of these portables. And there was also an insufficient crime lab, which was not complying with the law, I'm sure. The carpet was rolling up on the inside when you tried to walk. Just be careful where you step. I mean, it was horrible, and it was very much undersized. And I mean, all I had to do was go and look. And they've opened the doors of the animal care facility. It's not quite as horrible as what I saw in my police department, but it's not functioning for the residents and what the law requires. It's just not. There was a backup. I don't know. In the last couple years, the whole sewer system of that place backed up and overflowed into the Public Works building right next, downhill from it. So, on and on and on. There's not enough. During the pandemic, there was a dog tsunami. I
have a question for you.
Yeah, Lorene, can we?
We can move on. Dog tsunami. They didn't even have enough space for the animals that came in. It was really bad.
Okay, so couple of thoughts. This is Jen Savage. I'm on the board as well. I'm grateful to hear your husband's doing okay. That must have been really scary.
Thank you.
Yes. So, couple thoughts. So when you were just talking about the old police station, it actually reminded me of a lot of our schools and what the kids are going to school in. So, I think having this empathy, is okay, but just because of that doesn't mean we need a huge police station for a small city of Kaysville. Anyway, that's not my question. But going back to the Western Sports Park, which is actually really near and dear to my heart because that is where we used to do 4-H, and I know we have a new facility. When I drive by the sports park, which is a lot of times, it sits empty. How can we see as a public that it is actually making revenue and that we are actually getting a return on our investment on that investment? And then who made the choice to build that sports park? Was it you and Randy Elliott and Bob Stevenson, or was it before you came into office?
No, it was our commission. That's exactly the 3-member commission.
The 3 of you. And so what was your plan with that? What was your hope for the future with that Western Sports Park?
To increase revenues that come into the tourism bucket. Yeah.
Okay, so how long has it been open now?
About 6 months.
And where can we as a public see how that is performing? Because, like I said, I don't see what you're saying. You're saying that it's just doing this beautiful job and it's going to bring in all this revenue to Davis County. I don't see it, and I have never talked to anybody that sees that building being used all the time.
Sure. So in the last 2 months, it has been featured in public commission meeting, and also in the monthly digital newsletter to give an update to all of the public. And those, the push out, the digital newsletter goes out to as many people who've subscribed, and there's thousands and thousands. And then the public commission meeting also. In fact, I made sure I was the one who read the data that they gave us within the last couple of months about how it's performing. So it's does
that data include what the revenue is we're bringing in and how much we're spending on it monthly?
Yeah, they had numbers. Yeah, they did have numbers.
That is very clear. So I could, as just a normal, resident of Davis County, I could go in and I could see, wow, this Western Sports Park was actually a really, really good decision for Davis County, and it's going to bring in people and it's going to make money for the county. and that is easy to see. That
Yeah.
data is there.
Yep, it's already done it. You can look it up and you could call our
Okay.
office. First of all, if anyone wants to get that newsletter
I
where
will.
they featured it or the minutes.
I will follow up with that. One other thing I wanted to mention, when you back talking about mandates from the legislature, but they won't fund the bills and appropriate money to help the counties and cities, then why don't you just say no? Because if the bill doesn't actually have a consequence for counties and cities, if they're not funding the bill, if they're not appropriating money for counties and cities um, to implement the bill, then there's no way that they can make you do that. And maybe you know more than I do, of course, but I would like to hear your explanation on that.
Sure, yeah. Well, as Republicans and as citizens of the United States, we believe in the rule of law. States are subject to the federal law, and counties and cities as subdivisions of the state are subject to the state law. So actually, it's not easy. It's maybe not what we all would like to have happen, but there is a process. We have legislative bodies. We should be talking to our legislators. We do talk to our legislators. We work as much as we possibly can with the legislators who've been elected for jurisdictions within our own county, and we use the Utah Association of Counties as well. We push back. We talk. As far as saying no, once it's a law.
Well, and that's fair. I have one more thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
You were elected to represent the people of Davis County. And from listening to you speak, it seems to me that sometimes you choose to represent other entities, other people than those that elected you. Because I just heard you say, well, if the legislature tells us to do something, I'm not going to push back. But you are representing me. You're representing us as residents of Davis County. So you should push back. If they're not appropriating money and that's going to hurt your constituents, then as a public servant and as somebody who has promised to uphold the Constitution, and you have promised me that you would represent me in your position as a commissioner, you should push back and say, if you are not appropriating any money, that is going to hurt my constituents, and I am not going to do that. And so that is a little disappointing that you say, well, we follow the rule of law. Of course we do. But you're also elected to represent Davis County. And to me, when you continue to put a burden on us, you're not representing us.
Well, it's hard for me to distinguish what you're saying. We believe in the rule of law, and we do push back, and we advocate, and we just don't always get our way, and they pass laws anyway.
Well,
So
but what would the legislature do if you just said, we're not doing this in Davis County? No, we don't have money for it, and we're not doing it. What would they do? Would they fine you? What is the repercussion if you, as a commission, said that to the legislature?
we would probably get sued by the state.
Okay.
So that's a pretty easy answer. And legal battles are.
Well, how could the legislature? What would be the grounds? Because they're not appropriating any funds for you to implement the law.
Breaking the law. The grounds are the basis is breaking the law.
Okay, well then the system is broken. But I appreciate your feedback because I know you have a different perspective, obviously. I'm just seeing it from my point of view. I'm seeing taxes raised. I'm seeing, $60 million buildings go up. I'm seeing a new animal shelter. And I think, well, that's not helping me as a constituent of you. So I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for asking the questions.
Okay, Lorene, we're going to have one, maybe two more questions. Tina's got a question for you. And then we'll give you a couple minutes to wrap up and we'll call it an afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the background noise. I'm driving in a car. And make sure let's let Richard get his last question in as well.
Yes.
Lorene, I am concerned at the amount of power that our county clerk has. And he's not our county clerk anymore. He is a comptroller.
No, it's just clerk.
Used. Okay. So I'm a little bit concerned at the amount of power that he wields, both in state election, I mean, specifically signature verification, and the serious problems that have been associated there with thousands of signatures verified that were not true signatures. And he just seems to have too much power, and I'm wondering why has the commission not brought him in, or why have they allowed him to just continue without any repercussion? I mean, I realize he's an elected officer, and we have the opportunity right now to vote someone indifferent, which I really hope we do. But I still don't understand. You say the security of elections is of the utmost, and I agree. I think it's the number one thing. But I don't understand why the commissioners have not diminished the amount of power that he has. It just seems too much. And I'm just wondering.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So every one of the elected offices for county government has their requirements in state law. And of course, the Board of Commission is executive and legislative, and we have a lot of administrative. There's a very great one-pager that a lot of people look at to see what we do. So attorney, treasurer, assessor, controllers, the finance guy we talked about, everyone has their responsibilities laid out in state law. Our clerk, same thing. All of
Okay,
his
so Lorene, I don't mean to be rude, but we've gone on really long. I want to be very specific.
Mhm.
So the county commission has to certify the election.
Mhm.
And you certified an election that was based on fraudulent signatures. So why does the county commission not have the ability to do something about the job that Brian McKenzie did? Where's the check and balance there?
Lieutenant Governor's office does the auditing, and they have passed those audits. And where there has been something that needs to be corrected, they've corrected it. So that's actually the Lieutenant Governor's office that oversees the various county clerks' offices throughout the counties.
Okay, thank you. But I just feel like still that puts you in a very precarious situation, because again, you certified an election that was based on fraudulent signatures. And if I were a county commissioner, I would be hugely angry at that.
We've not had any evidence provided to us that shows there was anything fraudulent that changed any outcomes. There's a lot of detail in the canvas at the end. There's a lot of detail. It shows what ballots couldn't be counted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's been nothing that has shown us that there's anything that was done fraudulently. And again, that's the auditing is done primarily from the Lieutenant Governor's office, the state.
Well, I was in a legislative committee meeting where they discussed this, and they are very aware that thousands of fraudulent signatures were accepted as real signatures. So, that's not true.
I might suggest that we probably aren't going to make much more progress on that topic. Besides, it's kind of unfair to ask Lorene to speak longer than we asked all the others to speak. So I think we probably had our time. I'm really grateful that Lorene has been so open and willing to speak with us. And so, but we probably ought to let it go there.
Yeah. Rich, was your last question a quick one, or do you still want to ask it, or you're on mute, Rich?
I'm sorry. I always forget to unmute myself. Yeah, I'll make it very quick. Lorene, if you could make your answer very succinct too. I just want to make a quick comment that, we've talked a lot about inflation and how that's going up year over year. And I heard at one point in time that inflation is a good thing. And then I also heard that inflation is a bad thing. I think inflation is a bad thing. That means that they're printing money and it's making our value less valuable. It doesn't buy as much. Well, here's the problem. Costs are going up. Construction costs, housing costs, just the cost to feed yourself every day is going up. Insurance, and that's tied to inflation. There's one big thing that isn't going up, and that is income. It's not following the inflation curve. So households have got to dig in and figure out, how do we cut when things get tight? I don't have the sense that the county is doing the same thing. I'm seeing that, the well that they go to all the time is the people. And there are costs that can be controlled in the county. And here's my question. My question has to do with the PPP money that came out around COVID time. Okay. And my question is how many of those dollars were spent on new positions in the county that once the COVID money ran out, now they're completely baked in, and we still have that gift that keeps on taking. Do you know how much that money is and what those positions are?
Yeah, I will tell you that there's one department that surged for the pandemic, and that money came for that to happen, and that was the public health department. And they surged to be able to do all the tracing and different things that were required. And then they've already gone back to normal levels, and that happened a long time ago. Okay,
so those people have been let go?
Yes. Mm-hmm. They were all temporary workers, surged to do the work, and then when it went back, they back to normal levels at the health department.
And that data is easily found for the public to view to make sure that we are back at current or old levels?
The health department could probably provide it if someone wanted to, but all of the financial information is available online. Yeah, it's all public. There's annual reports, annual accounting projects due, and the controller's office does those, and they've received awards for like over 30 years because of excellence.
All right.
But, yeah. And by the way, there were things adjusted even before those tax hearings to make cuts in all the areas where, just looking with new eyes on things. And that was countywide, not just the public health department.
We're going to have to find a different well to dip from. The people, I went to that hearing, and that was 2 hours long, 3 conference rooms completely filled, people very upset. And, there are people out there that cannot make their bills, and they stand to lose their property. And we're going to have to look inside. Common people do it all the time. The county's got to figure out, hey, we got to look at how we can cut. That's just how it's got to be, because again, pay and income are not following the same curve as inflation and all that other nonsense. So thank you again for being here with us. I'll let Brian wrap it up.
Yeah.
And just one thing to say with that, since it's definitely a very important topic, the controller had just $6 million more during this year to figure out how to balance the budget on the ongoing revenues, and it was not making up for inflation since we did only less than 15%. And so there's even more things that have been done, and he's recommended some good things. We did an early retirement incentive so that people who have been with the county a long time could take advantage of the retirement incentive, and then people hired back into those positions would be at lower rates because they were new to the county. So that's just one example.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay. Well, Lorene, we thank you for your time and for sticking with us much longer than we had initially intended. But hopefully you've found the experience enlightening as much as we have. And is there anything else you'd like to take a minute or two to say before we sign off?
Thank you. I chose my motto for this campaign, empowering the people. Every single one of you here, and hopefully people who will watch and continue to research as they're doing their work as delegates. When we know with accuracy how things work, then we can use our voices and really important ways. And so I'm empowering the people. I'm all about teaching and answering questions and helping folks know accurately how things work, including stuff that I didn't used to know as a regular person raising kids, how property tax works. But all of these things, it's math. You can learn how it works. And when you know accurately, it's very empowering. So with that, I thank all of you, and I welcome people calling and texting and visiting in person. And there's a lot more to go through April 18th convention. Looking forward to it.
One more quick question. Are you gathering signatures?
Yes. I did it grassroots, all volunteer in 2018. Did not do it in 2022. Didn't make the time, but I've been doing it again this time.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Lorene, when's the next commission meeting again? If people want to see this video, want to come and talk with you maybe afterwards?
Yeah. Tuesday mornings at 10 are the open and public commission meetings. And some weeks on Tuesdays, we have work sessions before that. And it's all on the website. But the typical time, as long as there's not three, you have to have a quorum to have the meeting, but almost every Tuesday at 10 is the open and public commission meetings.
Okay.
And welcome to have you and visit after, or make an appointment with our office to visit with me at a time that works for you. And the number for our office is 801-451-3200. And my own contact information is out there all over the place. So you can also just reach out to my cell phone. I love to hear from everybody.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.